Hey Instagram, happy Friday. It is the Friday takeaway. We go live every Friday at 12:30 to discuss all things business, marketing, mindset, catching up with what's happening in the world together on a Friday at 12:30. Today we're talking about marketing strategy. This is a question I get asked so much. Yeah, brilliant. I need a marketing strategy. What's a marketing strategy? Or like, where do you start with this stuff? It's a minefield for so many people. I get it. I work through this a lot with the people that I work with on a daily basis. There's lots going on. So I wanted to bring on a marketing strategist. His name is Philip Twyford. I hope I pronounced that Philip. And Philip is known as the curly marketer, which I of course love because it's quirky as feck, and we love quirky on the Biscuit channel. We definitely love quirky. But he not only creates social strategy for people, but he works a lot on social. But where I met Philip was I was a guest on his podcast, Let's Get Social. He's a co-presenter with Emer Duffy, and they are on Dublin South FM on Fridays from 2 to 3. So if you want to listen, and lads, go on to their website, or his website, thecurlymarketer.com. An amazing resource. There's blog posts, there's all the old shows. I'm in there at some point. Go and have an old nose and show him some love on Instagram as well, Curly Marketer. So we're going to talk about marketing strategy. I'm going to let Philip give us some gold on what he is finding these days, because it's changing so much, and the advice that he would give small business owners developing a marketing strategy. And I'm excited to talk to Philip. There he is. Now we'll get him on. Excited to talk to him. It's always great to talk to other marketers, lads, and people that are helping other people. And Philip's a big helpy dude. Hey Philip, how's it going?
Hey Tara, how are you? How you doing?
Nice to see you.
Yeah, I did the hair, especially very uncurly.
I thought that you uncurly, and I was going to ask you, is there such a word as uncurly? I was going to ask you, where did the name come from, Philip?
Yeah, like I do have curly hair when I don't kind of nick the hairdryer from my good wife. But I suppose from working in marketing for over nearly, 26 years at this stage, and starting off, particularly in the creative agency side, we were kind of drilled into create what were known as critical paths. So, from day one up to day, 50, what were all the things that you had to do? And it sounded so simple. You go from A to B to C to D. But in my own experience, and no doubt like yourself in your own community, nothing ever goes from A to B. It tends to go from A to F, back to B, up to Z, back around the houses. And to me, it was like you had to take a curly approach, lots of twists and turns and pivots. And I suppose with what I do now with social media, that is very much the case. You have to be able to pivot and be flexible. Yeah. And I suppose that's where the curly marketer came from. It's an approach of being nimble and be able to pivot as you move through.
And I love that. I love that you're bringing in the reality of what the landscape is like. But I also love how you're bringing your uniqueness of having curly hair into that mix, because it's really that personal brand building, isn't it, Philip? Yeah. Because I know with you, like, you're known for the really good jokes, I think.
Yes, like, Emer hates them.
On the podcast, that's the buzz around you, and it's really, yeah. I love that. And you having curly hair as well, I just think it's a lovely mix. I think that's a really clever thing to do.
Sure, thank you.
So whether you did that on purpose or not, I'm not sure, but it
I always say it was very strategic.
Yeah, over a few pints of Guinness.
Yeah.
So tell us first, Philip, because I know you've been in marketing for such a long time and you've a wealth of experience. So I'm dying to kind of, delve into your experience, and especially, as we know from running businesses for a very, very long time, on my perspective, and also being in marketing on your side for a very, very long time, we know how nimble you have to be on keeping up with changes. And especially now, it's it's kind of bananas with all the things that we're being given, almost like the amount of tools, which are brilliant. But what would your advice be? You know, the big thing that comes to me is what is a marketing strategy? Like, people are almost, I feel like they think marketing strategy is doing reels every day. Could you kind of outline that for people?
Yeah, certainly. Like generally when people get started with social media, and you're right, like social media every minute of every day of every month is changing. Like, you know, a tip that I do is I use a content curation tool called Feedly, where I've essentially I sign up to a number of different blogs, etc., etc. And there is every single day of the week from one source at least 30 or 40 new updates per day of what Twitter's doing or what Facebook is doing. And for business owners, especially small business owners who are doing the marketing themselves, don't have a marketing team, that's a massive overwhelm. But when a business is looking to either start with social media or is trying to, I suppose, get better or learn better with social, having a strategy, a social media strategy, or as I call it, a roadmap as to how you're going to use social for your business is critical. Because, you know, if you picture yourself as like a tourist, you know, whether you want to go to some part of Spain or even it's another county within Ireland, you're generally not just going to rock up and kind of go, right, where do we go? You know, you'll have a map or you'll have done some research. And it's the same analogy with your social media plan. It's really starting to identify some core fundamentals as to who is your target audience, what we want to achieve, what channels should we be on, and what type of content should we create. And I generally, what I do is I have I suppose, a process that I give businesses, you know, which is sort of a very easy formulaic way of doing it, but when people then start to drill down, it starts to become clear. And the more they do it, the better, because with social, it's very much, I find, that I learn by actually getting on and doing. You know, it's about, say, for example, before I knew how to do reels, I couldn't read how to do a reel. So I had to get on and start pressing buttons, throw my legs around the sitting room, as you saw, literally put my back out a few times and put it back in. But now you know, and then you start to learn and refine. But what I say to businesses is that where do you start? Where do you start with creating a strategy plan for your social media activity? Whether you're on 10 or 12 channels or you're only on one channel, this is still applicable. And the first stage that I go through it's a terminology called a situational analysis. Sounds like a really fancy term, but essentially what you're doing is you're doing a deep dive as to where your business is now, because so many businesses are so kind of looking into the future, and we have to get on here and we have to update the website, but they don't understand as to, well, where have they come from? What's the current positioning that they're at now? Because if there's issues within the business now that aren't actually looked at and focused on, that will hamper or affect any future social media success that you might have. So basically what I say to people when you're doing the situational analysis is, first of all, really kind of look at who is the audience that you're currently serving? Who are the customers that you're currently servicing? Do you understand the makeup of their business, the individuals, the gender, the demographic? Are you getting a flavor of particular types of prospects who are making inquiries with your business now? And are they the right people that you want to be speaking with? I suppose then reviewing all of your products and your services, because there's business that I come across who very simply fall into a pattern where, through wanting to give so much excellent customer service, that they almost kind of fall into giving out or developing new products that they haven't even monetized, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So they'll go the extra mile, oh, we just threw this in, or whatever it might be. And when they take a step back and look, wow, we're doing all this amazing stuff for our customers as purely a free add-on. Could we monetize that? Could we productize this, if that makes sense? I suppose looking at your objectives, you know, it is always critical that what objectives has the business set for themselves up to this point? Because once again, there's no point setting objectives and then not looking at them to see is what you're doing actually achieving them.
And I think that's where people get stuck, I think, like of those objectives. So, you know, I'm going to sit down. My objective is I want to make money, like, you know, and it's that generic lump at the top of the page going, I just want to make enough money that I can keep doing this. Like, when actually it's almost like that headline that you have to break down. Well, what you say, well, underneath the money making thing, how can you make money? What products have you got? You know, it's almost breaking down every segment, isn't it?
100%.
On the how, like,
100%. Like I say to businesses, you should have short, medium, long-term goals.
Right.
Your short-term could even be as short as, say, per quarter or monthly, you know, and especially when you look at it from a social media perspective, you know, set yourself some monthly goals, as in our first monthly goal might be just getting a presence on social, getting all of our social channels up, the relevance that you want. And then each month then you're mapping out, okay, next month now we want to try and drive more email subscriptions or increase views to our website or whatever it might be. Like I think another very interesting thing that a lot of businesses don't do is, especially when they're starting with social, is a competitive analysis. You know, you really need to know who are your competitors in your space, and going onto their social channels, going onto their websites, seeing how are they using social media, their language they're using, because inherently what will happen is you will suddenly find that, wow, they're talking about this trend in my industry and we haven't even got on board yet. We didn't even know this was happening. Because when you start to see then how your competitors are using social media, you might be able to say to yourself, or if you have a team, well, we could actually do that so much better.
And with my crew, the opposite is usually the reaction. Oh, I'm not good enough. They're so much better than me. And that's what happens. It's that real imposter syndrome epidemic, like that's within, I think, every industry, but specifically with creative people, because the product is from them and they're making it from their amazing skill and passion for what they do. There's always that, almost, it has to be controlled, that research piece where you're not always researching because you get caught. I'm never putting myself out there.
100%.
I'm, you know, so that's where the strategy piece, the planning bit comes in, wouldn't it, Philip? That on Mondays from 9 to 9:30, I'm going to just research my competitors, see what's going on, and then I remove that from my schedule. I can't be doing
100%. You know, and like, there's a great tool. It's an old school marketing technique. I'm sure you've heard of it, but a lot of businesses have shied away from doing it. But it's called the SWOT analysis, you know, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And you can apply that to a digital perspective, as in, where are our strengths digitally? Well, we have a great website. We've got great content. Where are the weaknesses? We've no channel set up, or we may not have time. But where are the opportunities? Well, we can start to become thought leaders in our space or gain a following. But where are the threats? Well, the competitors have got all their channels up and they're active, so we're a bit behind from community building. But kind of doing that kind of that initial first kind of review of the business, it gives you, when you take a step back, it gives you a real sense of, well, where are we? And we've got so much to bring now. Like a big thing with social, and this tends to be like stage 2 of your planning process, is really drilling down on who your audience is, or as the terminology would be, is customer personas. Who do you want to target? You know, who is the demographic? What's the gender? Is it men or women, or is it both? Is it a particular age group? Where are they based? Are they based in Ireland? Is it all of the world? Is it specific? Like, there's a university that have a very specific focus that I've been giving them some help with, and their audience is 100% in America, to attract American students over to the college. You know, understanding really kind of trying to put, you've often heard this, try and get into the mindset of your customers. What are their needs and wants? If you're a service base, what are the pain points that they are going through that your product or service can solve? And you're trying to, I suppose, map out what's known as the customer journey. So, and that can take, I suppose, 5 steps. There's awareness, interest, desire, action, and advocacy. And essentially, for a lot of people, they start in social, you are at that awareness stage. They don't really know much about you. They don't know what you're about. They don't know if they like what you're offering. They don't know if they feel that they can relate to you as a business or a brand. But when you start to then map out, then, well, how can we create that awareness through the type of content we're putting out, the channels we're on? How then can we create the interest? How can we start to, I suppose, create the desire for what we're doing? And that may be through discounts or free trials, if that's part of the business. And then obviously then taking action, kind of, I suppose, you'll probably see it that people will kind of say, listen, you get a free trial for 30 days or sign up now before you lose this deal, etc. But by that stage, you'll find that your audience, you'll have an audience whereby some members of your audience are at the awareness stage, know nothing about you. But then there's other members of your audience who are advocates, love what you do, want to share everything that you put out. And even with those people, making sure that you're kind of following and interacting with them, because as they put communications out, that's contents that you can use to, I suppose, develop that testimonial sort of piece. Because the way it goes, like, testimonials are so huge these days. People now look at, when they're on Amazon, they look at all of the reviews. They're on Yelp looking at reviews for restaurants, whatever. And it's the same with social and products. People will look to people who are like them to see, well, what's she or he saying about that service.
And should that be like an ongoing piece of your plan for your social marketing? Because we know reviews and testimonials are so powerful, that instead of turning up doing reels and learning about hashtags all the time, and that's what you do, that it's that process of, I have a customer, everything went great, they're really happy, making sure that collecting that testimonial 100%. or prompting that review is part of that process. And 100%. So you're building your almost library of contents that you can use to solidify the trust for that new audience coming in. So it's planning that out, isn't it? Because I think what happens, and I don't know, do you find this with your clients, Philip, that people get sucked in to the trending thing, like reels, for example, and just being obsessed with one thing because the marketing people are saying I have to do this all the time, like, and because they're testing and then they're selling how to do reels, you know what I mean? This huge, almost kind of, I don't know, it drives me mad. Like, just, it's not just about one thing. It can't be, like, it has to be a 360, doesn't it, around your business, not just one thing.
Like, very much so. Like social is a fantastic tool, tactic, whatever you like to call it. But it is just that. It shouldn't be, say, we're putting 100% of our marketing budget all into social, because local radio could be a thing for you. That's perfect. Local PR within local news publications. Your email list that you own, critical. Direct mail, which is one of the tools that I started with, is making a comeback. People are sick of getting loads of digital communication and not getting a physical piece of communication through a letterbox. So, and especially as you mentioned with reels, there's no point being on reels if your target audience is not on reels or is not on Instagram. But if they're on LinkedIn and Twitter, well, then that's where you should be. Like you mentioned there about objectives. And it is such a critical thing. There is a very good framework that is, I believe, has stood the test of time. That is the SMART framework that you probably heard of. I have it written down here as my prompt because I always keep forgetting it. But it's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-stamped. And essentially, it's all common sense. Like, be very specific with the objective that you're trying to achieve and lay it on your social channels. What are we trying to achieve on Facebook, on Twitter? Is it to build awareness, to then kind of grow leads? And with that kind of that perspective, then to essentially say, okay, well, if we want to be on Twitter and we're expecting to do 100K worth of business within 3 months, is that really realistic? You know, the chances of you doing that in 3 months, unless you have something that's the most incredible product in the world, is unrealistic. And what then happens is that businesses, you know, say, oh, it's not working. It's not working. Social's not working. And unfortunately, the return on investment in social is primarily down to the fact that you do need to have patience and consistency. You know, like 3 to 6 months sometimes is the sort of time frame before you start to see, because you are going through this process of, as I mentioned, that awareness kind of building stage and showing up and engaging. So not just posting as Emer, my co-host, and Let's Go Social would say, you know, posting and ghosting.
Yeah.
You know, well, that's great. Now we've done 50 tweets this week. And did anyone follow up on the tweet? Oh, no. You know, so, and that's the secret, because people still want to do business with people, even though it's a digital channel, if that makes sense.
And I think you've touched on something that I feel very strongly about as well, is that turning up bit. Now, I'm from a background where bricks and mortar, and I know a lot of people here are bricks and mortar because they are either have pop-up shops or they're at a craft fair, and especially coming into the silly season now, like, you know, it's all about, of course, turning up. And I think it's really important that, and this is a mindset thing, that we always put ourselves under a little bit of pressure to be consistent and to turn up. And especially when you're starting off and that top almost audience build is really your objective, is to get, how am I going to cultivate the right people in to see me? Well, I have to turn up and be there. Like, if I just turn up once a week, I mean, no one's going to see anything. Like, you know, just like if you had a restaurant, I'm only going to open on Mondays because I couldn't be arsed for the rest of the week. I mean, forget it. Like, I just don't think that works. And I also think from a mindset perspective, especially on social, if people are saying, oh, just turn up when you feel like it, don't put yourself under too much pressure, I think that's very dangerous from a business productivity perspective, because we almost give ourselves that, sure, it'll be grand. No, it won't. You have to do the work. Like, you have to turn up. I think that's dangerous.
No, I'd agree. Like, I think you know, when you're sort of like a big struggle for business, well, what are we going to talk about, you know? And I suppose that's the next sort of element is of your strategy is defining, I suppose, the content plan. And that links in nicely to what you were saying there, that it is about consistent presence with consistent engagement. And a great tool that we always say to people to set up is an editorial calendar. You can even just start off very simply as week to week, whereby you're planning out the week. What are we talking about on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday, on Thursday, on Friday? Who's responsible for getting that piece of content up on those dates? Because when you start to treat your editorial calendar almost like client meetings, has to be done. It's in the diary. And then you build up that sort of that relevance of consistency. Because that's what your audience wants. Like, from a content planning point of view, I always say to people, you know, start with a content audit, because a lot of businesses don't realize actually how much content they may already have. You know, they might have created, you know, lots of stuff on the email, or review what might have gone out on social already. Can it be repurposed?
I love that. I love that. Repurposing is key. Lads, hit me in the comments if you guys, hit me in the comments, yes or no, if you struggle with consistently turning up, if that's a thing, and you only feel like, you know, once or twice a week is all I can manage. Like, tell me in the comments, yes, I turn up consistently, or no, I can't. Like, just give me an insight into where you guys are on that topic. I love that. And that's a big thing, isn't it, Philip? Is repurposing the content that has done well, like going back, that posted really well. You know what? I'm going to just schedule that once a month to pump up my audience, like, and have it in there. And I think people are afraid of repeating themselves and afraid of using old things. And actually, I think it's a smart way of drilling things out.
Well, very much so. Like, let's say, for example, you're a business owner and you did, let's just say, I saw this recently actually by a pensions advisor on social, and he had a real good performing post on social about 5 tips to reduce your income tax with your pension, and it was really good. And an idea around something like that would be, okay, there's a really excellent performing tweet, but you could then turn that into a video where they get on camera and bring a bit of personality. They could create each of the 5 tips into a personalized tip image that could be put on Instagram or could be tweeted out. It could be done as an authoritative sort of update or publish a post on LinkedIn, done as a blog on the website. So you start to kind of see that already just out of one tweet, you could have 5, 6, 10 pieces of different content. And you're right. Like, I think analyzing your content to see what type of content resonates, because when you go back to your personas and that whole journey and looking at their needs and wants and what are their pain points, you'll start to kind of realize that whenever we put out content that is answering a problem or creating happiness or whatever it might be that our community needs, then that's sort of giving you an idea as to the type of content that you should be focused on or what your audience wants from you.
They're telling you, and the tools enable that viewpoint that we can see through the insights and through the back end of Facebook and Instagram primarily, what's actually happening, what's getting the reaction, what kind of what's working, what's not. There's a few comments there, Philip. Hey, Anushka was doing some mindful stuff with me earlier, some energy stuff. I've loads of energy, Anushka, now, thanks. So Anushka is trying to be consistent. Olan Moore, yes, daily at the moment. Excellent. Fiona is struggling. No, I'm not. Hey, Louise. Louise is in Berlin. I am inconsistent on social. Definitely need to schedule. I think that's a very, very good point. Like, it's that inconsistency. The pain point there is, like you said, Philip, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. And then how the hell do I sit down to schedule when I haven't got a clue what I'm going to talk about? So it's almost ripping back the layers of the onion to find out the key thing that will trigger that consistency. It's so important. And Denise says, I do a few days a week, but I didn't want to be annoying people. Here's the thing, and I don't know how you feel about this, but it's really hard to annoy people on social because they don't see your stuff. It's really hard for you to get people to actually see your stuff, Denise. So as a matter of priority, I want you to get a piece of paper, Denise, I'm talking to you, and get a piece of paper and a big marker and put up on your wall, today I'm going to annoy people. Annoy people. That's the mantra. Because the repetition and the consistency is how people will even see you exist. And you're brilliant on camera, Denise, just saying. I know you're new to doing lives. You're amazing on camera. Maura and Bernice are there. They're consistent. And even, I love that Maura says, I'm consistent 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, haphazard other days. But she's locked in those 3 days. And you're probably in the other days engaging, maybe doing some stories. You're just being there, like, you know. I think that's cool too, Maura, as well. So Pebble and Soul, I struggle to turn up. It's all or nothing. When creative juices flow, then bang, nothing. No structure around it. Again, that's so it, isn't it? It's really that structure and strategy, like what you work with your clients, Philip, on creating that plan of action, that roadmap. Bear and Willow, hey, I'm trying hard to figure out a way I can be consistent across all my channels instead of just focusing on one at a time. Yes, well, I think repurposing is a big one there. Hey, Lisa. Lisa says, I find turning up on Instagram stories easy to do regularly, but less so on the feed. I'm not great on other platforms like Twitter or TikTok or LinkedIn. Well, I'm not either. It's Facebook and Instagram for me. That's it. I have my profile set up. I can't get my head around Twitter. My brain is too full right now. LinkedIn, I'm just there. I know the power of it, but I really feel like, for me anyway, that I'm going to really excel at Facebook and Instagram. They're my two channels that I'm going to really nail before I touch the rest of them. How do you feel about that, Philip? About
no, I'd agree. I think starting off with 1, 2 max, where you know definitely your audiences is, and get really good at that. And get that into a flow, get into a consistent approach is the right way to go. Because if you try to be on TikTok, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Reels, YouTube, you will do half about on each channel, and you won't get anywhere. Like, one tip for people who are struggling to maybe create content consistently is to consider what's known as batching. So set yourself maybe a day in the week where I'm going to, in this day, I'll create 5 posts, or I might do 5 posts in a video, but therefore Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Or you, like one of your contributors there who is very active Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Once you tell your audience that I'm going to be here every Monday, a bit like you with your live, everyone knows you're going to be on here alive every Friday. You're managing the people's expectations. And you'll see that a lot on YouTube now. YouTubers will say, so I'm releasing new videos every Tuesday, Thursday. So people know to check in. Like I suppose when it comes to content as well, having some tools in the back pocket to help you is always important. Like one that myself and Emer use sometimes for the show for a bit of fun is daysoftheyear.com.
Oh, what's that?
Great website, totally free. So for example, today is Chicken Cacciatore Day. So if there's any Italians on the line, you can be celebrating cacciatories all around the country. But there's I suppose you call it, there's a day or an event every single day of the year. And there may be a day that is completely relevant to your business that could be a bit of fun for you in the community. There's another excellent website called answerthepublic.com.
Oh yeah, I love that one. Answerthepublic.com. And what was the first one?
Daysoftheyear.com. Answer the Public, as you would know, brilliant. If you put in a search term in there, around maybe a search term for your type of service, it will bring back, what, where, why, who type questions that are based on live search results from the internet. And, if people are searching or using those search terms, there are some potential topics for you. Google Trends can be very, very useful. Even setting up Google Alerts, which is free for maybe your keyword or even your business name or a competitor's business name to see what's going on. There is a tool, it is free up to a point and then it's paid, but it's called BuzzSumo.
Oh yes, BuzzSumo,
a very good tool if you see blogging being a content tool that could be useful for you, because what BuzzSumo does, it based on a search term that you put in, it will give you back the most shared viral content on social. And you can go in and see what someone was talking about, maybe in the same topic as yourself. Customer surveys. So many people forget. I always ask businesses, tell me why your customer does business with you. Why do people buy from you? And you would be amazed the amount of people who say, geez, we don't know. Don't know. And it's a critical thing when you step away from social. If you can understand why your customer does, it's because of your personality. It's because of the experience that you give me when I deal with you. Then that's something that you need to bring into your social journey. Um, it might mean that you're getting on video more because you can, through video, show what a super nice person you are, and you show your brand ethos. Or it might be specific parts of your business that you could hone in, from the customer service or going the extra mile, etc. So always ask yourself that question, why? Because if customers say, well, we went to you because you're the cheapest, then you start to worry a bit, because does it mean that if you're not the cheapest, they wouldn't have gone with you? Or if they went with you with the cheapest, but is that customer really the type of person we want to do business with?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love that. I think stepping out and doing your homework, really, like,
Yes.
and researching and asking those kind of pondery questions where you're with your notebook and your pen and just going,
Yeah.
why do what are people saying back to me that I can remember? And it's paying attention going forward. What are people saying back to me? Am I documenting that anywhere? Like, and I know that might feel a bit like structured for many creative people.
Yeah.
But think about your problem. Your problem is, I don't know what to turn up with online. I don't know what to talk about. I don't know what to write a blog about. I don't know what to say about me. Well, use that data that you're collecting from your customers to give you a script to actually go, this is what Mary said last week, and blah, 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 and this is what happened, and this is what the thing looked like, and you know, and that's what you talk about, like, so you can use it
100%.
that way as well, couldn't you?
And like, what's interesting is that, especially for creative people who I have a huge amount of admiration for, because when I worked in the agency, working with the designers and the photographers, I found them to be such interesting people. You know, they're like, I would consider myself creative, but not at the level that they're at. You know, and I'll give you a quick story. I remember myself and a good friend of mine who's a designer, we were driving to a client meeting in a taxi, and I'm just there kind of, you know, checking my suit. Oh, yeah, making sure I'm looking okay. And he's looking at the window and going, wow. And I go, what are you looking at? The architecture. And I'm kind of going, all right, well, whatever. You know, so he was loving architecture, and I was kind of just more concerned with creases in my suit, you know.
Okay, that's interesting. Different viewpoints.
Different viewpoints. But what's always excellent for whether you're creative or you're more IT or whatever the business you're in, is defining as best you can within 3-4 words what your brand stands for. Everybody says, oh yeah, we're professional, we've got integrity. But, you know, everyone in business expects those. Whether you are a designer, an artist, a photographer, we expect you to be professional. We expect you to have integrity. But from your customer testimonials, or even sitting down with a piece of paper and saying, what do I want my customers to say about me? They've just worked with me, they've done a job. What would I want them to say about me? How do I make them feel? And even pulling some of those words, you know, for a photographer, made my wedding dream come alive. You know, if you're a wedding photographer, that could be your brand statement, you know, and make your day even more special, or whatever it might be.
Yeah, and that can create a pillar of content that you can work on all the time and refer to.
100%.
Okay, I'm going to talk about how I make people's day special through a visual, or, you know, what happens when I work with you, going back to I make people's day feel special. What does that look like when you work with me? Yeah, and almost kind of, you know, build that spaghetti arms coming from that topic, break it down again to subtopics around that central piece that you're repeating. It's so important. Emer is there as well. Hi, Emer. Emer says Spark Toro is another good one, Philip, by your friend Rad Fishkin. I was listening to the interview you had with him. He was great on your podcast.
Yeah, Rand is a real, I suppose, a maverick to a certain extent in the content scenario. Like, he recently did a webinar and he had this amazing stat that like 90+% of organic content will never be seen or found on Google. And he's developed this tool called Spark Toro, where you can literally put in a search and find potential opportunities for business, or, you know, where you can connect
Okay.
So definitely one to check out. Good spot for Emer.
Yeah, thanks, Emer, for that. That's brilliant. I think the tools are really great, Philip, aren't they? Just to pay attention to what's actually out there for us, like to
Yeah, very,
use.
very much so. And there's so many mobile tools to
Yeah.
create content. Like I suppose two big things on a plan as well that
Mm,
shouldn't be, I suppose, missed is one is setting a budget, because social, particularly when you're doing paid advertising on
mm,
social, and especially if you look at Facebook, if you decide we're only spending €5 on Facebook ads, but yet in your mind you're expecting hundreds and hundreds of leads to come in,
mm,
it's never going to happen. You
mm,
know, what you put in is what you're going to get out.
mm,
Now, yes, with Facebook ads, start small, but be prepared that if you really want to start to see some growth, you are going to have to put some money behind it. So, um, so be very ruthless, and I suppose back to your objectives, be realistic. If you only have €50 a month to spend on your marketing or your advertising, that's going to give you a certain level of return, and to put it in context. But a critical thing that a lot of, I suppose, businesses forget to actually do, well, two critical things. One, which would be very much in the area of Emer's expertise, is optimizing all of their channels. Like if you look at Twitter as an example, the header image is a prime piece of real estate that an awful lot of Twitter accounts just put up like a horizon picture or something, nothing relevant to their business. And then if you go into the bio, there's no sort of, I suppose, identity as to, or personality. Like when someone comes onto your Twitter channel or your Facebook page, you have that those few seconds to make an impact as to, well, what are they going to get from your channel? Why should they follow? Why should they connect? So these are all opportunities, and so filling out all of the details, your opening hours, putting up the testimonials, making sure that you're looking at channels like Google My Business, especially if you're a brick and mortar store,
That's right.
where you're directing people as to where your location is, be found on the map for Google
Yeah.
search. Um, Another element, or a key element, obviously, is analytics. I think you touched on it at the start, Tara, is measuring. Um, all of the social media channels have their own inbuilt analytics, and you should be, say, once a week going in and checking, well, how did the latest round of tweets go? How did my Facebook's post go? How's Instagram going? And then at the back end of your website, having Google Analytics. Because as they say, and it's not to sound cliche, but to measure is to know.
That's
And,
right.
and there is and it's not to get too technical for your audience, but if you imagine, let's just say, for example, you have decided to be on Twitter and LinkedIn, you feel that's where your audience is. You create a post, and let's just say you want to have a post that's with a link that clicks back to, say, your website, where you might expand on that particular post. A lot of people use URL shorteners like Bitly. What I would always advise people to use is the Google Campaign URL Builder. And you'll find that if you put in Google URL Builder in the website, it will bring you to a page. This is a free tool offered by Google. And what it allows you to do is put in your website address that you want to drive someone to, say from your tweet. It will allow you to put in that the medium you're using is social, that the channel is Twitter, that the campaign name that you've put on the tweet. So let's just say, for example, that you decide you're going to do a range of tweets about a product update or a new type of creative, or a new you're a photographer offering a new photography course, let's just say, and that's your campaign name. What you'll be able to do is, with this URL builder, is create a very specific link, shortened link, that is personalized to that tweet on Twitter. And as you build up those tweets and those Facebook posts or those LinkedIn posts, you can then go onto your Google Analytics and actually see whether people are coming from Twitter or LinkedIn.
Gotcha.
And
So it's I gotcha.
Is
So it's
really,
almost mapping, it's almost giving a tag to the URL
yes,
to
exactly.
tell Google where the traffic is coming from that link, that specific.
100%. Yeah.
Ah, that's cool. I
Um, and
love
it,
that.
and it's great as well with email, because you may
Yeah.
find that we sent out an email, but the article within the email was the one about branding, drove everyone to the website, but no one clicked on the other two.
Okay, so then you
Um,
put all your resources into email. That's where they're
yeah,
clicking.
exactly.
That's
And you
okay.
start to figure, like I did this exercise with a client, and he was spending all his time on. He thought Instagram wasn't really. We found actually it was the second best performing channel after LinkedIn, and it
There you go.
skewed his thinking towards Twitter.
There you go.
Um,
That's so interesting.
you know,
Data is everything. It's paying attention to the numbers, gang. And I know that, and not to stress you guys out too much, like that will come. And if you're just starting off, get your social channels optimized, set up like what Emer does and what we teach in the factory as well. Just make sure that they're filled out well, you've good image, and that you're turning up and you're just paying attention, and the insights and the numbers and all the, that's advanced stuff, like when you get to a certain point when you're ready. But always start, like never wait. I'll wait now till I've Google Analytics sorted. No, just get on there and get
yeah,
set up and
absolutely.
understand it later. Like just get them
Yeah,
linked in and get everything, in tune with each other, and then the data will come afterwards,
yeah,
because that might stop a lot of people then off doing a course in Google Analytics when it's
yeah,
too early. It's all about
yeah.
in the right stage, isn't it, Philip?
Yeah,
With the
yeah.
stuff.
I think the first step is, I suppose, is understanding why you want to use social.
Yeah,
What you want to achieve with it,
yeah,
and starting off, setting up the channels in their
yeah,
full.
yeah,
Be true to yourself.
yeah.
Invite your closest friends,
Yes,
colleagues, clients to follow
yeah,
you,
yeah,
um, and then start to build it up. And
yeah,
be realistic. And I know Helena from Busy Leaders is on
yeah. Hi, Helena.
um, like Helena does an amazing job at something that, as we mentioned, is very critical, and that's engaging. If someone,
Yeah,
even down to say your new followers on your channels, if people follow you, it's very rare for businesses to actually go, "Thank you for following me,"
yeah.
as a tweet, replying back to that, and taking it up a notch, even, which would what I would do and had done, and saw huge engagement on Twitter, was sending video thank yous
Yeah,
from the
yeah, yeah,
mobile. No one does it,
yeah,
and people just love that.
yeah.
It's a point, because you're just saying it's great to have you part of the community.
Yeah, it's
You know,
lovely. It's so nice.
yeah,
Jamie Mac, Philip, I'd say we could talk for another 5 hours there. Like, Jamie Mac, that went very fast.
yeah,
I love the way, I love what you're saying, and I totally agree with all of it. And I think it's important, lads, as almost an anchor, is to make sure that you're tuning in and listening to the right people. There's a lot of faff out there as well, and I think I respect what everyone does, but there's certain things. Just be careful of, believing in the trending hype stuff. Like, I think we have to always go back to, keeping it country. You're running a business which is a 360 moving part that needs attention all around it, rather than reels. Like,
yeah,
forget it, like, unless you're teaching reels. So just be careful who you're engaging with as well.
yeah.
It's really, really important. So thank you for being a 360 person, Philip. I
No problem.
appreciate and totally respect what you do. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Pleasure. Thank you.
And gang, give Philip some love over on Instagram. He's the Curly Marketer, and they have a great, himself and Emer have a great podcast, Let's Get Social. So you can go over and listen to them over there. They have amazing guests over there. So well done, and keep up the great work, Philip. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on. And
Have a nice weekend and happy
thanks very much. Same
Friday.
to you. Take care. Bye bye.
Okay, bye gang. I'll see you all next Friday at 12:30 on the Friday Takeaway. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.